Welcome to Black Belt Beauty Radio, a podcast fueled by a passion to support your journey in developing your most beautiful and optimal performance in life. Each episode is driven with the intention to elevate your mind. When we elevate our mind, we elevate our life. So get ready. It's time to rise. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Black Belt Beauty Radio. Today's Solosode is actually an Instasode. So for those of you who are not familiar with this format, so this is something I used to do earlier on in the podcast. Essentially, if you don't follow my Instagram, I would love for you to join my community. This will all make so much more sense to you. My Instagram posts are very rich in the captions. As a writer, I just get down and deep. I get into a very, very deep flow state when I'm writing the captions. And so, a lot of these posts end up being really, really powerful for this format. That's why I call it an Instasode, where I tease out the captions and I can take it to a whole nother level of depth. Ultimately, the goal is to really drive home the message in a way to provide you more valuable, mindset tactics, strategies, thought seeds, all of it. So I'm really excited about this one today. I've been wanting to record this one for quite some time now. This post is it's a bit older. It's several months ago now, but the concept that I share here actually really came into form in my own life just recently. So I can really speak to this right now with a lot of potent kind of real-time energy. So first, I'm going to read you the actual visual post, which is actually really gorgeous. I've got 2 lions on there, one of my favorite lion shots. And my writing on this post is: knowing when to strike is a skill. Knowing when to surrender is an art. Knowing when to strike is a skill. Knowing when to surrender is an art. So moving into the caption now. Self-mastery in its finest hour. Let me tease that out really quick. So knowing when to strike, right? So think strike, take action is a skill. Knowing when to surrender is an art. The surrender that I'm talking about is not hands up, I quit, right? The surrender that I'm talking about, and I'll tap into this in the caption, is pausing, zooming out, having emotional discipline to be able to do that, hence self-mastery at its finest hour. And, moving into a state of investigation, which I'll, unwrap more from the caption. But this is not something that's easy to do at all. It's very easy to stay in a state of doing and action. But if we're just doing all the time, there's a lot of issues that will come up from that. And I'm gonna share some of that in this episode. I would just want to read this caption now. It's actually more bite-sized than my usual captions, but I knew that I was going to create an episode here, so I kept it bite-sized, and now I get to drop in here for you on this. So the caption again: self-mastery in its finest hour. Let us never confuse surrender for submission. Huge difference. Surrendering can be the most lethal weapon one can use in the state of battle. It's that moment where you release any and all resistance that keeps you from creating forward. And I left it there again because I knew I was going to, come on and record about this. So let's talk about that now. Again, kind of touched on it just a second ago where I said that it's so easy to stay in this state of doing, right? When we're doing, we feel productive. When we're doing, we feel busy, we feel useful, we feel like we're on it, right? But if we're not careful, this doing business can start to become the master of us, right? So I'm obviously a goal digger, a very driven, vision-driven woman, right? Like I'm on a mission here. And I know so many of you in my community are as well, right? You're very aggressive, you're passionate, you're driven individuals, and it's beautiful. Like I can't imagine being any other way. But it's so important as we are moving through our life with this drive, with this passion, being so mission-driven, goal-focused, that we also stay very, very connected to our heart, right? And I'm putting emphasis on heart because our heart is really where we want to be creating from, right? This is my opinion. If we're always just creating from the head, we're usually looking at something and we're operating from somewhat of like it could be extrinsic motivation, it could be something material. I love material. I love luxury. I'm not putting down money or any of that. But to me, that's a byproduct. When you are being driven and you're creating from your heart, everything that I do, this podcast, when I started Black Belt Beauty Radio, it certainly wasn't this operation of like, well, if I do this and I'm going to, get this money and get this attention. No, I actually, for those of you who've been in, space with me for a long time now, I had to get out of my way because I'm so introverted actually. And I prefer to, just kind of be more behind the scenes. But as a real natural communicator and someone who is on this mission to, support and empower as many individuals as I can in the world to live from your most authentic self and to be path creators and to create your life from your authentic self and to essentially be thriving in your life. It was very important for me to get out of my way, this whole introverted part of me, and to jump on and be here with you. No part of what when I initiated this podcast was being driven by the money or, anything, like even just being someone now who is an influencer. No, it's all operation of heart, right? So let me reel it in here. In my own business, there are so many different moving parts, right? I'm a writer, a speaker, and a coach. So, each of those are like its own, avenue of a career, right? And being a goal digger, and again, a very passionate, driven woman who's driven by vision and a high performer, it's really easy for me to just create and go, and just keep looking at the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and not necessarily even taking real time to maybe even capture what I just released, like created, or just like it starts to move really, really fast. And then you start to feel like, if you're not keeping up with that pace, you're falling behind. And so just recently, it was interesting because I was feeling this speed. And by the way, I love moving fucking fast, right? Like I'm aggressive and I love it. I thrive in that energy. But at the same time, and I'm going to reference it in this way, my feminine energy, this feminine energy is the surrender, right? So think masculine energy is strike, feminine energy is surrender. Masculine energy, mind, doing. Feminine energy, heart, being, right? So, many of you know this about me by now. I speak about it a lot. I love talking about the harmonization of masculine, feminine energy and the power that comes from that harmony. For those of you who don't know, this is a harmony that has been really innate with me in my whole life. In some of the most obvious expressions you can see, my career prior to everything that I'm doing now. I was a celebrity makeup artist, a beauty expert. At the same time, I'm a martial artist. I'm a jujitsu girl. I'm an athlete. That's a very kind of surface level obvious. There's the masculine, there's the feminine energy, right? But going back to where I was in this, surrender versus skill, the masculine, feminine energy, when I started to feel things were moving fast, but I wasn't leading it, it started to feel like it was leading me. My feminine energy was like, excuse me, me over here. Hold on. Can we pause for a moment? Can we breathe? Can we zoom out? Oh, let me remind you that all of this pace, this timeline, this is you. I don't work for anybody, beautiful. I'm very fortunate. But it's ultimately what I've created for myself as well, right? But the pressure, and side note, I fucking love pressure, right? Like I seek the fight in life, but this is different. This is different again, because the goal for me, and maybe this is something really valuable for you to think about too. The goal is I'm running the show. The show isn't running me, right? So goals, mission, vision, all of it, beautiful. You have to be running the show. If it's running you, it's more than likely going to get you into a state where you are run down. What does that even mean? Like run down, like just burnout. Ultimately, in my opinion, burnout is a disconnect of self. And I can really simply explain that. When you become so run by when this show is running you, you're actually not doing that check-in work. You're not, in my world, self-care is gratefully, I have so many boundaries around self-care that is never an issue. But where I felt it was an issue recently, where I had to pull the surrender piece out was, I was like, wait a second, I'm doing these things, but I just need to make sure that everything that I'm still doing, yes, I love all this, but like, is it all heart, or is there some other influence coming in? I think this is a good thing to do to build off of this, etc. Just giving you an idea. I don't want that. Like, I had to investigate. I had to really pause, zoom out, and check in. And, whatever the answer would be, it would be. Maybe it would be like, no, this is all like full operation of heart. Everything I want to invest my energy in each of these, containers. It could go either way. But my point is, if we don't allow ourselves that pause, that zoom out, that taking a moment and really checking in with our heart and asking these questions, it's just, I personally don't feel like it's going to lead us anywhere that we really want to be going, right? The goal is, how can I stay in the most harmony as I am building and creating in my life? And when I say stay in the most harmony, I'm not saying, avoid challenge. You know this about me by now. I'm always talking about seeking the fight, standing up to the challenge. Challenge is a beautiful thing for me. But when you start to feel your equilibrium really thrown off, and maybe there's some struggling and some resistance coming in, that's where surrender needs to come in. That's where you got to investigate and really check in with yourself. And then you can start to honestly, make the edits that are necessary for you to make. And it's so important in those moments to, first of all, always be honest, right? But it's really important just to have the courage to A, investigate, and then B, take action. So it might mean, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to slow down right now. Hey, you know what? I'm actually going to push pause on that project right now. Maybe I'll come back to it. Maybe it's actually not something that I want to invest my energy in. Hey, you know what? I'm completely wiping this off the table so that I can just focus on this, whatever it is, right? But if we don't slow down, if we don't surrender, if we don't lean in and check in with our heart, I think by now you get the point here. You're going to be run down, and you're going to ultimately be driven not from a place of ultimately authenticity. Your authentic self connected to your heart is always going to, so long as you stay devoted and loyal to your heart and your authentic self, then you will be more fulfilled in every single action that you take and every single creation that you make, irrespective of the ultimate outcome, right? Because your heart was in it every step of the way. That's just, something again that was really, really potent on my heart right now, especially because I just came out of this sort of moment. I wouldn't even call it a season because it was just a couple of weeks, of me just taking this time. And that's important to say here too. It doesn't have to be, it could be whatever you need it to be, right? So let me just say that. But, this surrendering piece and zooming out and all that, it doesn't have to be some long, big moment. It's taking your foot off the gas. Actually, it doesn't even have to be putting your foot on the brake, but sometimes it does, right? In my case, it was. It's just slowing down, taking a breath, and staying checked in with you, with your heart. So I want to, take this opportunity to invite you right now. You might be feeling great. You're flying, like all is like, everything feels really good. All operation heart, beautiful. Keep fucking going. But if for some reason, if anything that I've shared in this episode has you thinking and feeling, moreover, like, wait a second, there might be something here where I need to pause and investigate, I just want to invite you right now to take the time to do that. I'm always going to drive you to the journal because the journal is the number one tool for me. If you are not yet aware, I have an incredible, beautiful, guided and illustrated journal that is out now called You Are the Path. You can purchase the journal in the show notes. And this is really going to be helpful for you to tease out this introspective work that will give you, the information that you need to then be able to move with full presence, full heart, and full intention to ultimately have you creating from your most authentic self and from your heart, right? Your heart work, capital A-R-T. So I would love any feedback that you may have on this episode. You can always, the best places is Instagram, Roxy Look. Hit me in the DMs, put it in the comments, wherever you feel comfortable to connect with me. I'm so here to keep connecting with you and for you. And with all of my heart, I really hope that this episode served you value in some way. So I will see you on the next one. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode, you guys. If you loved it, please share it on your social. Throw it up on your Instagram stories and tag me. I'm at Black Belt Beauty. I am also at Roxy Look, RoxyLook. I love connecting with you guys. This is a conversation that I want to just continue growing with you guys. So if you feel inspired to hit me up, do so in that space. I always enjoy hearing from you. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by rating it and reviewing it via iTunes. It's such supportive help, you guys. It really helps the visibility of this podcast. So I appreciate and thank you in advance for doing that. And on that note, you guys, I'm signing off with all my love and always looking forward to catching you on the next.